Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest-running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasevich.
Welcome, everyone, to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. I'm Christian Karasevich, and this is episode 288. Got to look at that number, make sure I got it right. 288. This week, we've got a lot of great topics that we want to discuss with you. We're going to be talking about a couple of things. Facebook audio creation tools. They're rolling out a host of new tools to compete with Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces and all the other platforms that are essentially moving into audio-only rooms. So they're rolling out audio creation tools. We've also got another update for your Facebook and Instagram stories content. We're going to be talking about some scheduling that's going to be coming out. We got a surprise update from Canva, and it's not a design update. It's actually a really cool update. I'm actually really interested to talk about this one, especially with our guest. In addition to that, we're going to be discussing some Pew research that just came out. And then if we get time, we also have an update from Pinterest, along with a couple of great tools. But I want to tell you a little bit about first off, I'm going to bring my co-host on, Sarah. So we've got Sarah Monroe co-hosting on Social Chatter.
Good morning.
And, she's wearing some sunglasses right now.
I'm ready for our guest. Can you tell?
And so who is our guest, by the way?
Our guest is none other than the Orange Man himself. It's Scott Ayres.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Scott,
I painted my nails and my toenails. And saying Orange Man might mean something different if it was, 2020. Orange haired man. Yeah.
Orange-haired man.
Yeah. I don't want to be referred to
I wasn't thinking of going there. I wasn't thinking of going there.
Man. Yeah. But yeah, good to be on the show. I don't know what we got to count like one point how many episodes I've been on with you now, Christian. It's got to be like 7 or 8 at least.
Definitely. Yeah. But it's always good having you on because we always take something away because I know you also do the social media lab for Agora Pulse and you're always testing a lot of cool things. So I'm interested in talking more about that with you. I know you had a Twitter article. I think we had some research done. And so I'm interested in us learning more about that. So for those who don't know, Scott works for Agora Pulse. Agora Pulse is just this fantastic social media management tool. For those of you who've been, if you're using like Facebook's native tools, well, they work, but the downside is that they're very limited in terms of being able to cross-post your content, being able to kind of keep on top of a lot of stuff. So they work, they're free, but then, you can move into a more professional tool, and that's the Agora Pulse dashboard. So hopefully I got all that right, Scott. Anything else you want to add?
In a quick nutshell, that's basically it. We help you manage your social media, especially if you're an agency and you got clients. You really need something to handle all your different clients. And you can go to agorapulselab.com. You'll see a spot for a free trial on there if anybody wants to try it out.
Fantastic. So, Sarah, I know we have a lot of topics and we've got a hard stop this morning. Where do you want to start in terms of content?
Well, let's stop. We keep talking about it. We keep mentioning it. And so let's start with the Facebook audio tools because it's more than just rooms that they're announcing today or this week, I should say. So they're going to create an actual mobile studio editing suite for you so that I'm sure Christian and Scott, you have mixing boards, you have multiple microphones, you have a lot of audio coming in. What Facebook is offering is this place where you can really create a mobile sound studio. So mixing and editing, mixing tracks, adding sound effects and filters. And they're also bringing in music. And so the music is going to come from the Facebook sound collection. I'm really interested to know if this is going to expand now that Facebook is doing more with Spotify.
Very good observation there. Yeah, I think, Scott, what do you think, by the way? What do you think about this tool? Is this a Clubhouse alternative? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it could be. I mean, everybody's jumped on the live audio bandwagon because Clubhouse is doing so well and their valuation's so high. I wonder though if now that, Twitter has Twitter Spaces, Facebook's going to have their thing. If now that's no longer going to be the cool thing to do anymore, and then we all forget about it. But I do like some of the editing options. The thing I think they're calling was Soundbites.
Yeah.
That's
Soundbites,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, Soundbites is actually a little different. So they have this editing piece, and then they're also going to have the podcast, the live audio rooms, and the Soundbites.
Yeah, I think giving people an opportunity to do something mobile where they're hoping. Of course, Facebook's always for the last 10, 11 years. They want to keep you in their house. They don't want you to go anywhere. So it's like when you walk in, it's basically like the equivalency of a shopping mall. I mean, you go in the mall and you can get your hair cut, you can get some shoes, you can get something for your pet, you can get your car fixed. It's everything. And Facebook wants to be that one-stop shop. That way you're not going to the competitors. And so that's why they keep adding all these features. I don't know if that'll eventually be their downside, is they're not focused enough on what they do best. But I like it because it does give those people, because if you read through the stats and stuff, I mean, there's a demographic that's Facebook is all they're on. They're not anywhere else. And so why not give them an opportunity to enjoy these tools that everybody are talking about and everybody are using, especially small business owners, where Facebook, especially a local town, Facebook is typically where you do really well. So give you some tools to use inside their app and keep them happy.
Right.
Now trying to explain this probably to my 70-year-old mother-in-law would be really difficult, but she would try it, I'm sure.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the podcast discoverability goes. And I've talked about this before too. I wish I was a podcast listener. I listen to tons of public radio, but I still can't break through to the whole audio piece. Really? But Facebook knows me, knows what I like. And Instagram certainly knows what I want to buy. And so it makes sense that, let's pull in podcasting, and this will maybe engage people like me who like podcasts, but don't want to really go down the hole of searching for them or making sure that my podcast app is up to date and all of that kind of stuff. Facebook is just going to deliver it right to me.
Yeah. And this is, I think overall, I mean, here's the thing. I want to bring up the podcasting feature as well, because it's really fascinating. I mean, they're getting into this. I mean, I will say I like the visual here. I do like the fact that people can have a podcast. You can follow a podcast. Here's what I basically think is going to happen with the podcast. I think they're going to layer this into Facebook pages. So for example, let's say your Facebook page has a group. You can have people, see that you have a group on your page. You can also, I think they'll do this with the, they'll have maybe a Soundbites feature. They'll have, the podcasting feature. People can choose then, I think, to follow. I think they'll be able to follow things separately. Like they'll be part of it, but not part of it. Does that make sense? But I think it's still going to go back to, I think the key point here, that Scott, I think, was making. And it's that one of the biggest challenges, I think, with all of this is that people are going to have to figure all this stuff out. Like there's already a lot going on. And if every social media platform, is now doing like, native posting, live video, stories, podcasting, for example, like 4 or 5 things, and you multiply that then times the number of platforms, you're looking at a lot of content that people have to create, and they got to figure out how to make all that content, make it really good content.
Yeah. And I think what you're seeing too is the evolution of that. I mean, with, Instagram used to just be photos and that was it on mobile only. Now they've got videos. Now you got Reels. Now you got IGTV. Now you can upload those from your desktop instead of your phone. You've got some live options. And I wonder if, and LinkedIn now has almost all the same features. Twitter has all the same features. They're really like becoming super competitive, where it used to be, I just did one thing and did one thing well. I just wonder how they'll segment, and if some people will finally get to like the Marcus Sheridans, who just decide this is my mall, this is where I'm hanging out. Come over to my mall. I'm not going to that mall downtown. I'm going to this one, and that's kind of what we're getting at now. Is you can go to LinkedIn and get everything. You can go to Facebook and get everything. Just which one do you prefer? Like what side of Houston do you want to drive to? Kind of thing, is how I think of it. Houston's huge and there's malls everywhere. So yeah, it's interesting to see all the stuff they keep throwing in there. But I do think it will help the local business. I think it'll help those users, especially the older users, which are getting closer to my age now. To have stuff to do, because they're not going to go over to Clubhouse. They're not going to go over the TikTok, those sort of things.
No, and this will be really interesting, I think. I mean, and here's the thing, they're gonna. Do you ever remember when all this stuff was being rolled out, Sarah?
Clubhouse is coming up on its 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, but like in terms of like when these audio tools are going to come out from Facebook?
The audio tools, so they are saying, it's sounding like the live audio rooms will be first, and it sounds like Facebook groups is going to be the first place where it will happen, and then of course in the feed and in Messenger, and then the other pieces are very much in the development stage.
Yeah, I think they say like 3 to 6 months out, something like that.
3 to 6 months, so add a few more.
Yeah, right. Well, Facebook's known to ship and break, and so they don't mind shipping stuff that's 80% done and just break it and then figure it out.
Right. So. Well, they do have that relationship with Spotify, and Spotify is now you can listen to podcasts and have a whole library of your podcasts on Spotify. So podcasts may be the next, I would think, with some kind of integration.
Could be really easy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yes, it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. I mean, I like the fact that they're adding these tools. I think the key thing is going to be, how do you keep it simple enough for people, because it's a lot that they're going to have to go through and and really think about. For those of you tuning in, by the way, I just want to go through a couple of comments here. We got one from Patricia here. Even though I started out on radio, the thought of audio only just bores me. We've already been there, haven't we? Absolutely true. We have. But here's the thing: everything that's old is new again as well. Yep. We see that with like designs. We see like things that were cool in the 90s, for example, are now like the cool like in thing again. We're seeing brands re-release products from the 90s for some reason, for example. Now that's what people are, regardless of how bad it might have looked and things like that. That's a new thing. So it's not like audio is ever going to go, or radio necessarily is going to necessarily go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Really, I think there's always a new audience for things. It may get old for you. There's a new audience that's never experienced it. So you think about movies. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but there's people who are discovering Star Wars today for the first time. It's been around since 1977. And so there's always going to be new audiences, I think, for stuff like that.
And I think the engagement piece too is going to be a big player too. One of the frustrating things that I find about Clubhouse is that you can't really ask a question, especially if you're in a big room, right? And Facebook, you'll be able to have that interactivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I confess I've never been on a Clubhouse, so not an iPhone user.
I mean, I will say that is one of the other benefits to these Facebook audio creation tools, is that with Facebook rolls these out, and regardless of however they do it, they're going to become available to everyone who's using a Facebook product, and that's going to be in a lot of places. We're talking, iPhone, iPad, Android computers. We're talking the Facebook portal, for example. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if that came there as well. So that's one big leg up that they have, to be pretty much everywhere for their customers, and hopefully then it just comes down to they do a good job with the implementation of it. But I'm excited. I mean, Facebook Soundbites, Facebook podcasts, and live audio rooms. I kind of wish we had some of these sooner. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't roll these out, but we'll see. And
they're talking about monetization right out of the gate, so that you'll be able to use the Facebook Stars tools to send some money to your favorite creators. I would caution though that with Facebook Stars, if you want to encourage your listeners, have them use Facebook desktop and not the mobile apps, because the mobile apps are going to take the Google Play Store and Apple are going to take 30% of your Stars revenue. Yeah, it's the same with donations and other things. One of the sneaky things about those Stars with the mobile apps is the revenue share that goes to the stores, so the app stores.
Yeah, and it's gonna be that, and here's the thing. That's a very interesting point, because it does then sort of rule out mobile. I would say rule out, but it just means you have to, either increase your price, if you're looking to get something back out of it, for example. So it's something you have to really, really, really kind of think of, because mobile is typically going to be where people are going to listen to audio.
Right. Or train your audience. I know a lot of YouTubers that have Patreon accounts, and they say, thanks for the super chat when they do a live feed. But they also, then the next breath is, remember, if you want to really support us, Patreon takes less. And
Right.
it's all about education. I do the same with my nonprofit clients too, is they say, oh, they want to get onto this or that donation piece. And then I explain how much revenue you actually get in the end for the effort that you put into it.
Definitely. So let's do this. Let's move into the next topic, actually. So Sarah,
right.
what's the next? And by the way, if you have questions on the Facebook audio creation tools, just do us a favor and leave them in the comments, and we'll get to those. So what's the next topic, Sarah?
Next topic, ever trying to be more helpful, Facebook and Instagram are adding story scheduling. So this is a big new thing. Through Facebook Creator Suite, you've been able to schedule Instagram posts and IGTV, and it's sort of where they've moved their scheduling to Business Suite and to Creator Studio just for general posts as well. But now they're adding stories, which is what people have wanted for a long time. You've been able to post to Facebook Stories and Creator Studio for a while, but not add that scheduling piece to it. So now you're able to really schedule out your stories. And this is great, especially for small businesses when you have like your opening day happening or a big event. You can front load a little bit of those stories and keep feeding out the content in real time, so that you're not just doing a big dump to your story when you have a half an hour, right? So it constantly keeps your story refreshing to the top of people's feeds and their little stories bar.
Scott, what do you think? Are these good for businesses? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, and I'm trying to see on the article, it didn't say how far out you can schedule. It doesn't give you out. I don't think it says anything there. They'd be curious to know that. But I think if you're a small business or you're managing the social just for your one business, this is a great option for you. Because you can do it right there, and the platform is right there. Now, if you're an agency, multiple clients, this would probably be hard because you have to keep changing, make sure you're in the right account and all that good stuff. So it's probably a little more difficult, but I do like the interesting thing on there. The part that stuck out to me was the fact that you could save them as drafts and then go back and edit them later to schedule. So maybe you got a great idea for something. That's what happens with a lot of people. You get a great idea and you save it to your phone. You forget to ever go publish it. So to be able to go in and do it like that draft it is kind of a cool, and you can do it from your desktop, which I'm assuming you can do it from the desktop anyway.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Desktop and mobile, actually.
Yeah. So that makes it easier for the small business owner to go in. And like you said, maybe they batch it on a Monday. I'm all about batch scheduling when you're doing your content. Get it all done for a week or 2 or 3, and the way you don't have to deal with it for a little bit. But yeah, get in and do it. Get them all scheduled out. Get them edited up. Maybe have somebody take a look at it. Yeah, I think it's good for small businesses for sure, to be able to do, because stories keep you at the top of mind. Even when I play around with just my personal use, I don't do a lot of stories, but I see in my personal profile, I mean, hundreds of views of my stories, but I may post a link to something or another post and nobody sees it, but they see those stories. People are looking at them on Facebook because not many are. So it's a great way to stand out.
Right. And it's important though to keep that in the moment element. That's great about stories too, is they're not meant to be really super polished. I mean, you'll see the agents, you can tell immediately what came from an agency, right? The other piece though is that you don't have all of the great bells and whistles within Business Suite or Creator Studio for this. So some of the functionality, I think they're going to keep in the mobile app, so that it keeps you scheduling in real time. Maybe, I don't know, just a thought, but definitely remember that your stories are supposed to be a little more raw and a little more in the moment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the fact that, this is going to work on desktop. It's going to work on mobile. It's through Business Suite. So, one thing you're going to want to do as a business, you want to get accustomed to using the Business Suite product from Facebook. A lot of people, they're still, there's people that still just go straight to their page and do things an old way. Facebook's conditioning you. They want you to actually go do this through those products. So you are going to want to make sure, you have, and for example, like if you've never used Business Suite, go and test it out. It's not terribly complicated. But go and check it out. It's it's business.facebook.com. Actually, that's for Business Manager Overview. And then if you go to let me get the URL. It's facebook.com/ just go to business.facebook.com. Actually, sorry, I want to make sure that link actually
It's okay.
works.
It's a lot nicer than the old Business Suite too. They've done a bit of a design refresh, so it doesn't seem as I don't know, dashboardy, like WordPress dashboard kind of look to it that it used to have.
Yeah. And by the way, Robert brings up a really good comment here.
Yeah,
Make us stories on mobile so you have functions, then download it and post it through the scheduling app. Yep, exactly. You can also do that too. So again, it's about working smarter, not harder at what you're doing here. So, you know, if stories content, if you're wanting to, like some people, for example, they prefer to work on mobile. Some people prefer to work on desktop. And it really comes down to like your personal preference.
Right.
If you're used to always working on a desktop, you've got the tools there and you can get accustomed to doing some things on mobile. Maybe if you have ideas, jot some of them down on mobile and then come back to desktop and they should be there. So really good update actually. So do we have anything else we want to add on this topic or what do you think?
You know, it's funny when we're talking about Business Suite and how they're pushing people to Business Suite. The same announcement, they also talk about how your regular Facebook app will have more functionality for your business pages within it too. So it's, you know, they know that people still want to use the regular Facebook app and access their business pages through that. So they're still giving people what they want. Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's stick with, I want to stick with the scheduling topic, but I want to move into something pretty neat. And this is actually something from Canva. And it's going to sound weird. Like, okay, we're talking about Canva on a show about social media news. Here's the reason why. Canva is rolling out scheduling of Instagram posts. So you can design your post in Canva and you can actually schedule them out to an Instagram business account. What do you guys think about this one?
Well, let's look at the fine print on this one. Okay. So the fine print is that only one account. So if you're managing multiple accounts, you don't get the extra, right? You can only post to one Instagram business page and only up to 25 single images per day. I don't know why you would want to do 25 individual posts in a day, but what that says to me is no carousels and no video.
Yeah. I will say, I think, and Scott, I'm going to throw this over to you, you know, from Agora Pulse's perspective, like this is Canva is getting into scheduling actually.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of trying to play in our playground a little bit. But I mean, I get it. I mean, cause you're already creating it there. So you don't have to download it. You can just schedule it over to it. And I bet you, I don't know if they will, but I assume you won't be able to edit it once you already schedule it actually, because Instagram's API would pick it up at that point. But it's interesting they're doing it. I do think that what you're saying there with 24 images in a day, who's posting that much to Instagram? And maybe that's because they are saying you can do carousels and they just didn't really write it out. We don't know that. That could be why. So I don't know. We see a lot of creator tools, that create images letting you schedule already because the API has been open for a long time to do it. So I don't know. It's again, I think you're going back to our opening conversation about Facebook and being the mall. Everybody kind of wants to be the mall, and you're already there. Hey, go ahead and do this while you're there. But again, if you're an agency, this is nothing good for you, really, because it's just one client you could do it with. But if you're an individual business or an I don't know if you can even do it to your personal account. If it's a business account,
actually.
Only a business account.
I guess if it's set up as a business profile, you'd be able to, which a lot of us do anyway.
So here's how it works actually. So if I'm in Canva, I've made my Instagram post design here and I'm ready to schedule it. I'm going to simply click my drop down here, the 3 dots. I'm going to go down to schedule and then I'm going to pick a date and a time. For example, let's say I'm going to schedule this for now. Actually, it's interesting. It changed from earlier. That's very interesting. So you do have to have a Canva Pro account, by the way. So we're going to pick that. Let's just say we're going to do next, and then we're going to pick our Instagram account here for Instagram for Business. And you're going to have to, if you've got an Instagram profile, you're going to have to convert it to an Instagram business account. So, this is another reason why you need to have your accounts in good standing on all these platforms. Because, for example, you want to, let's say you happen to have a problem with your Instagram account. If you go to try to use the features, for example, in Canva, they may not always work. if you've had challenges with your Instagram business account. This applies also to Facebook as well, using some of the scaling tools, for example. But basically, you've got to convert your account to Instagram business. You got to then link it to a page. And then you're going to connect via Facebook. And then at that point, it's going to schedule your content. So that's all there is to it. Now, I think this is pretty neat, by the way, Scott and Sarah, because I think what's going to happen here is I think this will be for like Canva Pro users, but I think at the same point, they're going to probably roll out this feature to people that are agencies at some point, because there are agencies that use Canva.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be really interesting because you can have different, you can also have different teams or team members on Canva as well. So one account per, maybe. Does that make sense? I mean, granted, it's a lot of account switching,
Right.
Mhm.
but it's pretty fascinating. I mean, I'm intrigued that Canva's actually getting into doing this.
Yeah, and they've had the ability to schedule to like Pinterest and other places already. So it's kind of a natural progression for you. And in that setting you were showing there, where you got to be a business account and you got to be connected to a Facebook page to schedule with an app to Instagram, that's common for every scheduling tool. I mean,
Mhm.
Agorapulse, you have to do the same thing. That's an Instagram API restriction and requirement. So it's not a unique thing to Canva per se. So like I have a couple of Instagram accounts that I use for testing here and there, and I had to go create a fake page for them on Facebook, which I would never use. Ironically enough, some of them get followers sometimes. I'm like, oh, look, somebody found that random page. But you have to have a Facebook thing connect. And I think that's because of the possibility to connect in the business suite to Facebook Ads Manager,
Mhm.
all those things. You can't do ads on Instagram without Facebook Ads Manager. So I think that's why they require that connection there.
Yeah, and I will say the biggest hurdle to a lot of this is that Instagram API. It's a limitation. So, for example, with the Canva Content Planner here, you get access to like all these different images. You can have up to 25 single images per day, as Sarah mentioned. But you do have to have a Canva Pro account that can pair to one Instagram business account. So, really fascinating that they're granted, that's the restriction. I mean, I guess that will change over time. But I do have a question, by the way, for either of you. So Colleen's got a question here. She's wondering, Business Suite and Creator Studio are they the same thing?
No, they're not. So Creator Studio is really for you to create and schedule posts. I really like it. Actually, I've been using it for, I don't know, almost 10 months or so since the summer. And it's a great handy way from desktop to schedule Facebook posts, because Facebook has taken away that little drop down where you used to be able to schedule your posts, where the little post schedule publish button was. So they force you to use Creator Studio, which has been buggy. And then Business Suite is where you can manage everything. It's like your one big dashboard for advertising and now scheduling posts. And it sounds like that's where the analytics are going to go too. Is that what you think, Scott?
Yeah, are they pulling that out? Because there are insights in Creator Studio. I go there a lot to look at like live video insights. I wonder if they're going to pull that out of there. I don't know that yet, but I go there to look at the content library to kind of, because I can dive down and look at specifics. But yeah, they are completely different. But yeah, I don't understand why they have both. You have to be all in one place, because you can do similar things in both, which is really confusing to people.
It almost seems like Creator Studio is their sandbox. Like people expect it to be glitchy. We all know it's going to be glitchy, and yet they give you some fun things to play with there without actually rolling it into Business Suite. So I wonder if that's sort of their developer sandbox. So yeah.
I almost feel like Creator Studio was like their attempt to copy YouTube Studio, to do something very similar to YouTube Studio, where you can go and you can find the videos, you can edit them, you can pull out the clips, instant articles, all those things. It's almost like they were trying to copy it if you look at it really closely.
It does look
that's a
lot.
Good point.
Yeah,
it does look similar.
I know.
The interfaces look similar. So
wonder why.
R&D is research and duplicate.
Who just rang that bell? Because that was actually awesome.
That was
me. That was I gotta say that was timed perfectly. By the way,
I've been. I was like, at some point I got to push the buttons. I've got to, I got them here in front of me.
Fantastic.
That's my integration of Stream Deck through Loopback and using a virtual microphone to connect in live video. It's my
and by the way, Robert. By the way, also he adds a point in here about So the Insights and Business Suite, they give you more
Yeah.
information than Creator Studio. Here's the thing. I mean, I'm glad Facebook's rolling these tools out, but yeah, it is about understanding which ones are, which ones do what basically. So, I'd recommend playing around with both. I mean, again, I'm still going to tell you the same thing. You need to keep your accounts in good standing. This means, for example, if you happen to have 2 Facebook accounts, make sure you got everything, like, you're not running into any issues with Facebook, because if you do run into issues, it's going to take down everything. So you do have to be very, very, very careful with what you do and the things you're doing. And even the things you've done in the past, they can impact you moving forward with a lot of things as well. So just try to, play by their terms of service on the platform. So Sarah, where do we go next?
Next, since we have the data guy here, since we have the social media lab expert, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about the Pew Center for Internet Research. So Pew Center, huge research institution that has finally updated their report on internet use by Americans. So typically we get lots of aggregate data you can find posted by the different platforms or by different bloggers or news outlets, but this is really the seminal piece of research on internet use by American adults. So it's been about 1.5 years since their last update. They did their survey in early 2020 and then had a really quick release. So many of us have been waiting to see what are the usage numbers. How have the platforms grown or flattened, or has one outstripped the other? And I think, Christian, you have the big chart with the drum roll here.
Yes. So here's what we have, right? Is this the right one?
That's the right one. Who's growing and who's remained the same. So I love this data. Absolutely love this data. And so we can see YouTube over the last year has increased. There's no previous data because Pew really wasn't seeing YouTube as a social media platform before 2018. So it's great that they've added that in. And really across all demographics, age demographics, YouTube is the clear winner for everything. We can see that Facebook has really flattened, still the huge player that it is, but has really flattened as far as growth. And then the others run through. This year was the first year they added Nextdoor, and they have 2 years of TikTok data now too. But what's interesting if you're really into statistics and things like that, the only 2 platforms that had statistically significant growth over the last year were YouTube and Reddit.
I gotta say, I'm very fascinated by this. I mean, when I look at this, so for example, I look at Facebook, I'm looking at that longevity. We're talking flat growth. We're talking it's been flat for like 5 years. Like unbelievable. And I actually think Instagram is actually going to flatten out or even decline, I think. Because, like you see, there's that break at 2018. There's a slight increase, to 2021. But I have a feeling that's going to flatten out too, maybe. Scott, what do you think? I mean, does any of this surprise you? What's your...
Yes and no. I mean, I would have thought Facebook would have climbed up from 20 to 21 just because everybody was stuck at home as much. So a lot more people were using it. So I'm a little shocked on that one, to be honest with you. Twitter dropped off, which is, I think once the former orange man you mentioned earlier no longer had a Twitter account, there was a lot less tweets going out and a lot less people retweeting the random tweets. So that I'm not real shocked by that one. I kind of thought that would go down. But the one that I see that really stands out to me, and I've been talking about them for a while, is Reddit. I mean, the increase of Reddit is massive, and marketers really need to pay attention to it. I think when I did tests, I did tests on Reddit ads, and their CPC is super cheap. It's cheaper than all the other platforms that I've tested it against. And it's gotten more robust and a little more sophisticated in the last year. But I think by next year, it's something like 15 to 17% of all internet usage will be on Reddit. It may have actually grown quicker than they projected because of COVID. So there's a lot of people. That's where they spend their time. They're not on social media or what we consider social media, they're on Reddit under handles that aren't their names. They're staying anonymous. But Reddit's not just, I always joke like Reddit's that place where you got the tinfoil hat wearers and conspiracy theorists and toilet seat warmers and that sort of stuff. But you get in the subreddits and they're very specific to that niche, and there's great conversations happening. It's not just conspiracy theorist stuff.
Right.
And so as a marketer, you've got to figure. Scott Simpson, I think I get his name wrong. I always get his name wrong. From Video Marketing World, he loves Reddit. He uses Reddit a lot because he's in that demographic, in the young 30s. And he uses Reddit to drive traffic to his new YouTube videos, and is seeing fantastic results with it to get people over, because that audience they're also YouTube users, quite a bit. So that one excites me a little bit. I'm kind of cool with that. I like that. The rest of them, I mean, I'm not too shocked on it. It's hard to tell in that graph. Like, I keep trying to look at where is TikTok on there?
TikTok is it just has this one data point because it hasn't been around long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And Pinterest has actually gone up in the last 2 years.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snapchat is leveled off. Not surprising. I haven't used Snapchat in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think this is, I don't know if as a marketer, this to me should be good news if you're into video and you're into other networks. I want to play around with some stuff in the images. It should be exciting news, I think.
And we've got a couple of really great comments, by the way. Robert's saying, his personal opinion is that LinkedIn will have a big growth this year, and that they have many features coming out, including audio platforms. Again, I mean, people are starting to go back to LinkedIn, I think, because they're starting to add, they're making the site a lot more sticky, actually. People are looking at it beyond that whole digital Rolodex that it used to be about. So I do have a question. Maybe you guys can provide some advice here. So, for example, Patricia is asking about Reddit. For example, how can she have success on Reddit?
I think I've used it a little bit, not as much as I wish I had. I used to use it a long time ago, but Reddit's more about conversations, and they do have you can go look, and I don't have it in front of me, but there are a lot of abbreviations used. There's a lot of acronyms used. So you kind of got to know, the Reddit talk. And it's not a place to go over and just, here's my link, here's my link, here's my link. It's just a conversation talking about stuff and knowing what subreddits are like and how replies work. If you're a business or you're thinking on the marketing side, you really just got to go over and build some relationships and get credit. They have like a point system that kind of gets you points inside there. So you kind of want to get some
be
clout.
active. Yeah.
You got to get some clout so people kind of take you seriously. No, you're not. Like when I ran ads, because it was a brand new account, a couple of the, places, they did horrible. When I tried it in a few subreddits, because it was like, they knew, they don't, who is this guy? So it's like, everything. Don't be that guy who walks in the networking event back in the old days and hands him the business card before he says hi,
Right.
But it's all about conversation, which is very similar to LinkedIn. It just tends to be a younger audience from what I've seen.
Right.
Any advice you want to add, Sarah?
Yeah, I would say try to push out better content in fewer places, right? We all think, oh, let's jump onto this, or there's growth here. This is why the Pew report is so important, is that it gives you the data of who the users are. And if your people aren't there, don't go there, right? Reddit, I think one of Reddit's biggest expansions this last year has been that political candidates did a lot of work on Reddit too. There was a lot of Ask Me Anythings with CEOs and candidates and celebrities. And it's just, they know their niche and they know how people want to use it. And they don't keep adding bells and whistles and bells and whistles like this. Their announcement about audio rooms last week is the first update that they've done to Reddit since 2018. And in 2018, it had been years and years before Reddit had done anything updated.
Yeah.
So know where you want to go, right? Know where your people are, not where you think they are, but actually look at the data. And that's what's great. So there's some other pieces of the Pew report that tell you the reciprocity of use between platforms, like how many TikTok users use YouTube, right? And maybe you can spend more time on YouTube, reach other demographics at the same time, and not spend a lot of time on TikTok. right? Because we all have a finite amount of time and energy to learn and use all of these platforms. Maybe Reddit is a great place for you. Maybe it's not.
Definitely. Yeah. I like the points there, and I'd say, for Reddit, you are going to want to experiment there. You're going to want to make sure you know the rules, because the rules are not the same on Reddit as they are on other social media platforms. It's not just like, hey, like to Scott's point, you can't just go and start posting on things. You can start, posting, but it's better to engage with like other comments and other threads first before you start trying to do things, because it can be confusing, because you may post something and all of a sudden it gets deleted, and that's because there's a point system there. Yeah. You have to, I almost want to say, you have to earn your way in on Reddit to build clout.
You got to build some trust, and they'll tear you up really quickly if you get off, if you do it wrong. It is because they are anonymous too. No one really has their real name on there. Some do, some don't, but most it's Joe Bob whatever 1256 or something like that. So it's a different place, but I see more breaking news on Reddit than you do on Twitter. Those kind of things. You see a lot more stuff on Reddit. So if you want to find the odd, weird, like you can't see it, you can see his feet above my head. I got a Bigfoot, sitting up above me. If you want to talk about Bigfoot, go talk about Bigfoot. There'll be subreddits for it. But if you're a video creator, like live video and video creators and marketing, there are tons of subreddits on there. And they did really well in my advertising when I ran ads over there. So it's definitely a place to play around with. I don't think it's going to overtake at this point. Now we fast forward 10 years, it may overtake one of them in that, in that list there, but it is something that's going to be around for a while. And those users are internet users. They spend their life on the internet. Reddit users tend to be people they shop online, they get their stuff delivered. They're real savvy when it comes to internet usage.
Awesome. So here's what we want to do. I have a couple more topics, but what we're going to do, we're going to table those. They're going to go in the blog post that's going to go out over the weekend at socialchefs.com/SC288. That'll go out over the weekend. What I want to do now, Sarah, is we're going to transition to some questions for Scott. So we talked with him this week about Facebook's audio creation tools primarily. We talked about the Soundbites, the podcast, the live audio rooms, obviously the scheduling features as well. But Scott, I got a couple of questions for you. And the first one I'm going to ask you.
Actually, we could do a little Jeopardy music, in the middle of it. No, I'll turn it off.
So my first question for you, I'm going to take this one, Sarah. I'll give you the second one. So the first one is, how should a business approach this whole audio only products feature? They've got podcast, Soundbites, and live audio. Like, should I just start doing them when they become available? What's your take in terms of, how does a business get started with these kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides to that. Our friend Brian Fanzo would just tell you to press the damn button and go for it, figure it out. I'm a tinkerer too, so I'll just kind of go play with stuff. But I think really, if I'm a business or I'm a social media manager, I want to see what some other people are doing first. See if like you were saying this a minute ago, Sarah, see if your audience even wants that content. I mean, your audience may not want it, so what's the point in wasting your time on it? But go kind of figure that. See if there's people in your niche using that feature. What kind of success are they seeing with it, and then see how you can emulate it and fit that into to your marketing plan. But it doesn't hurt to go try it and fail, because you don't know until you try and test it out. But I would say on the testing out side, and this applies to everything, when you're testing something, you got to give it more than one chance. Your first time, you're going to be first live video, Kristen, you ever did. On what episode are we on?
288.
Yeah. I mean, I bet you number one was not that great.
No.
Comparatively, because you don't know what to do. You're like, where's the buttons? Where's all? And so you learn as you go. And that's the same thing. Any new feature that comes out, you're not going to be great on it first. It's going to be confusing, but you get a little better as you go, and you find, hey, my audience does like this. So that's what I would say. Like, I know a guy at our gym who runs the gym. He wanted to go live during COVID when the gyms are opening back up, to give like some, hey, here's some tips on what's going to happen when you open. Never gone live, scared to death. He did the first time. He pushed live on his iPad and just stared at the camera for like 2 minutes. Anybody here? Is this thing on? Really awkward. Okay, well, blah, blah. And he talked for a minute on a 5 minute, 6 minute long live, talked for a minute and then turned it off. Second time, got a little better. third time deliberate. The last time I saw him, he's live while working out and giving tips. He's live in his car with his phone pointing at him, and he just goes live now, and he got confidence as he started to do it. And I think that's the same with these things that are going to come out. Play with it, see if it works. Look at some data to see if you notice engagement. If not, and you can't really, what's the your return on time has to kind of come into play and see if it makes sense for you or not.
So one quick note on that. So when you say run a test, how long should that test be? Should it be 1 month, 3 months? What do you think?
Since this is so new, I don't know if you want to like overrun once it does come out. We know this, especially like Facebook audio stuff, it's going to be a little bit. I mean, you might do one a week. Say, hey, I'm going to try this every Monday, at 2:00 to do some live audio, and let's do it for a month and see if anybody cared. See if anybody paid attention to it, and then kind of look at your data and see if it makes any sense. But be consistent. I think that's the thing too. Like, I think consistency pays off more than anything. If you're sporadic with it, like I'm playing around with Amazon Live right now quite a bit, and I'm kind of all over the place in my timing. And after a month of going, okay, I've played around now, I see there's some value in this because I've got a lot of views. I've made some money with it. Now, hey, I'm going live Tuesdays and Thursdays. At this time, the way I know, people who follow know, and it kind of gives a little bit of an expectation back to your audience. I think that's key. Even though sometimes you may just do it randomly just to play around with it. But I think you got to try at least a month of a consistent sort of posting schedule on anything that you're going to test. Longer if you can, but something new, I'd probably play with it, give it a month and then see what it looks like.
Okay, so one last question for you. Twitter Spaces, we all know about Twitter Spaces. This seems to be like the next big thing. Do you think it's going to supersede Facebook audio creation tools before they really have a chance to become relevant? Or do you think it's going to be Twitter's going to come along and then Facebook's going to come out and kind of trump that? What's your take?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I've actually, I'm an Android guy, so everything's hard for me to get. But I actually was in a Twitter space recently because it popped up. I was able to get in. I can't create one yet, but I got in one. But it was kind of interesting. It was kind of neat to kind of see what you could do and how you could play around with it. I think Twitter Spaces, and it seems even reading that little interview snippet from Zuckerberg and what they were showing, Twitter Spaces seems to be more individual focused. So that where users they're worried about the individual user, where Facebook seems to be thinking, because they're always thinking about their revenue, is they're focusing on how business can use it. So that could be the play there, is Twitter focus on the individual people who just want to chat on their own, where businesses can leverage it. Like they showed that screenshot of having it on your page with the podcast and that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think there's place for both because not every business is on Twitter. A lot more on Facebook than on Twitter. So I think if I were Facebook, I would focus on, you want the users to use it because otherwise, why would they come back? But businesses, I think, are really where they're going to maybe leverage it better than Twitter will. Because I can't see, the local, let's say like the local pizza restaurant doing well on a Twitter Spaces, but they might do well on a Facebook, whatever we call it, whatever it has a name, Soundbites or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. And that's where Clubhouse is getting. Clubhouse is that individual too, that you're following. I'm following some authors. I'm following some experts.
Yeah. Are you following any brands?
There aren't any brands.
Exactly. That's my point. Is that I don't think you're going to see that even on Twitter. You'll see now there will be some accounts like Agora Pulse may have a Twitter Spaces, ability from Agora Pulse to go live. But I think people like that connection individually right now with the Clubhouse and with Twitter Spaces. But I think businesses could leverage it differently. I hope anyway. That's why I've said all along, and Robert was talking about, LinkedIn was probably going to have an audio. I said LinkedIn should have bought Clubhouse 2 months ago. Clubhouse should have gone to LinkedIn and say, give us some money, Microsoft, and just get bought out and let them do. Because I think LinkedIn will crush it with live audio because it is so niche focused, as compared to all the other places.
Clubhouse does have a very LinkedIn expert kind of feel to it.
Yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't do that already just to save themselves from being the next Blab, who just everybody just copies and they go, oh, yeah, we're going to go back to our mall now. We're not going to that shop 10 miles down the road. I'm going to the mall next door. I worry about Clubhouse from that aspect of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. One thing I want to add just real quick, and then we're going to move into tool time. So Scott has an article. They published it on the Agora Pulse website. Be sure you guys go and check that out, by the way. It's about Twitter marketing. It's a really fascinating read. I was just checking it out last night. Very fascinating read. Check that out. He does really great research there. And so, for example, if you're thinking, oh, do I go into Twitter Spaces? Do I use these Facebook Live audio tools? Or sorry, these Facebook audio creation tools? Check out the research. Let the research kind of help dictate, helping you kind of understand where you need to go next. Because there's no, oh, you definitely need to go there.
Right.
The data will give you, suggestions based on trends, but you need to also pay attention to it based on who your audience is.
Right.
So with that, by the way, I want to move over to just our last topic here real quick. And then we're going to wrap things up, and that's tool time. And we've got tool. We're scaling back this week. We're going to do one tool because we covered a lot of research tools. So we're going to, we've got a great tool actually this week. And this actually segues perfectly into what Scott was saying. And that tool is Amazon Live. And, for those of you who don't know what this is, it basically is, it's a way for you to build your own QVC type show on Amazon. And, it's free to join, but you do have to apply. It's not something that like everyone's going to get approved for. They base it off your social media following, but it is a really fantastic tool if you're trying to get into live video and you want to monetize right off the bat. I think it's pretty good for that. What do you think, Scott?
It was kind of funny. Amazon Live, I didn't know anything about it. I put a link to my channel or storefront, I guess you would call it, in the comments. But I didn't know anything about it until like about 45 days ago. And Jim Fuse and Chris Stone were like, hey, can be a guest on our Amazon Live. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I was a guest on there, and I kind of saw the views and went, that's interesting. And so I had them on one of my shows, and then they talked about it some more. So I started a channel, and don't have a lot of followers yet at this point because I haven't really pushed it anywhere. But I went live yesterday. Of course, right now their stats are really goofing up. They got a problem with their insights right now. But I know a video from a few days ago that I went live on, 1,400 views, and I had about 40 product clicks, and sold some stuff, made a few bucks off the thing. So you really don't need an audience on here. You do need an audience to get approved. That's a big thing. But once you get on, no one has any followers and they start on the thing. But you show it. The cool thing, like you're seeing that person there, that's their live video, and those little stars and stuff come flying up. But if you were to be like right now, she's featuring, she just moved it as we were saying that, whatever that Nick's Play Seed Ultra, whatever it is. If you were on that product page on Amazon, you would see her live video embedded on it. And somebody were to purchase while it's on there, you get credit for it. And so it's a really intriguing thing. And there's a 24-hour cookie or pixel, whatever you want to call it, place on people if they click on one of your products. I have sold about 150 different products so far. Most of them tech oriented. More than 75% of them are not stuff I've even talked about. It's stuff, I talked about my Heil PR40 mic, showed it, and then people went and clicked over and bought a Blue Yeti or, some other kind of mic. The Blue Yeti is the thing I've sold the most of, which is funny. And so it's real. So we had a guy on Tuesday and we talked about a nose hair trimmer, and I've now sold a nose hair trimmer. I saw that in my stats this morning. I was like, yes, we sold a nose hair trimmer. I only made 79 cents off of it, but it's just funny to see. I've put my Hulk character and my Captain America character in my carousel. I've sold a bunch of those. I'm real big into the Among Us game, and I've done live streams of Among Us, and I've sold Among Us stuff. So there's really the health and beauty products do the best. As far as like money is concerned, they have the highest profits. Tech has the lowest, but I'm getting on there and just talking, interviewing people, showing people how to use tech. And then, oh, by the way, I use this. Oh, I use a Stream Deck to make those funny sounds. Oh, yeah. I've sold 2 or 3 MacBooks, just by showing them. I didn't talk about the MacBook at all. Just showed it. So it's real intriguing if you want to kind of play around and make a little side money, and build an audience there and monetize it. Because right now they're spending a lot of money bringing in huge influencers. All like I see every day on Instagram, their stories, they're bringing over another big influencer, just to kind of get people to come over, which is good for the small guys because, hey, it's more eyeballs to see all the live stuff that's on there. But it is a little cumbersome, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about how hard it is to get started, but there's a lot there's some hoops you got to go through. You got to go live on an iOS device.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the app. So I'm on my third iPad to do it because I bought a cheap old iPad to do it. But and from there, I can go live from any software like you're using StreamYard. You can go live with StreamYard through to Amazon. Boom, you're done.
Easy. Yeah.
So it's really cool, and there's some good communities out there that are really helping each other out. I think you're in that one, Christian. I like it as an opportunity for people.
Yeah, and just want to add one other quick point, and we're going to wrap things up for this week. It's really just the fact that if you're looking to get into live video and you want to monetize quickly, Amazon's a great way to do that because it does offer the warm audience as opposed to if you're doing live and you're not necessarily like if you're doing live and you don't have an audience, for example, it's going to be hard to monetize that versus Amazon's just putting this stuff in front of people. So just keep that in mind. But with that, I want to thank Scott for being a guest actually this week. It's been a fantastic show. We had so much covered this week.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, and sorry, Christian, your wig hasn't come in yet. I sent you.
Yeah, I know.
I noticed. I looked at Amazon, and it's probably going to deliver this afternoon. So
I am having a good hair day, so I'll just put it on for the very end.
There you go.
Here we go.
I have that one too, hanging up on the wall over here.
I got the older one. Yeah, there we go.
That's a good look right there.
I want to thank everybody for watching, by the way. And this is awesome. I mean, I love all the. I got to get the wig. That looks good, Julie. I like that look there. Or sorry, Sarah. Sorry. So just a couple of quick notes. We got the newsletter. If you want to get on the newsletter, socialchefs.com/daily. If you want to connect with Sarah, I think Sarah, you're at what? Sarah Monroe VT on I think most of your social media channels.
Every social media channel. Yep.
And Scott, you're at Scott Ayres, I think, on most of your channels.
Yep. You'll find me there.
Awesome. And I'm at Social Chefs. And if you want to get the blog post recap, just a couple of quick reminders, socialchefs.com/SC288. There's also an Alexa flash briefing if you want the 7 to 10 minute condensed version of this. And then with that, we're going to have another great guest next Thursday, same exact time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be Jen Mitchell. Yeah, you may know her, Scott, right?
You're making her get up early. She's in California.
Yeah. Hey, she picked the time, so it wasn't me. She picked the time. But with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next Thursday. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.